Take a look at the study questions for the Baldwin Buckley debate, this remarkable document, this video, history, American history, and remarkable things said by these two men. Number one, what is the shock that Baldwin describes? I think it is specifically in reference to the Pledge of Allegiance as being emblematic or symbolic or summing up the whole thing, that at a certain age, a black person in America realizes that the country that they've been pledging allegiance to all their lives isn't loyal to them, has no place for them, does not include them. He also talks about growing up watching westerns and cowboy movies and realizing that essentially the cowboy is not on your side, that you're the kind of person that the cowboy is shooting at. The shock realization of that. Number two, what is the consolation that Baldwin describes, and why does he think it is so terrible? Well, that consolation, he says, is the consolation that a white person in America would have, that no matter how bad things may get for them, at least they're not black. That somehow that white racism rests on the idea that the worst thing you can be is black, and that if you're white, you're inherently better than any black person. Why does he think it is so terrible? Well, I mean, he goes so far as to say that, when a white Southern sheriff puts a cattle prod on a black woman's breasts, that is the horror of that, and the damage of that on the part of the black woman is horrible. But he actually suggested in a way that to be the kind of person who would do that is more horrible. That is, that person who would do that is so thoroughly damaged by their hatreds and prejudices, by their racism, that they're almost worse off. I mean, he says that. Number three, what does Baldwin say is one of the great things that the white world does not know, and that is that black people are like everybody else, which is a remarkable thing to say. And he means it in every way, that black persons are no better and no worse, really, than white persons or anyone else. And that simple truth should be obvious, I suppose, is just not available to the white world because of its um, distorted sense of reality. I suppose. Number four, what does Baldwin say is the new identity that Americans are trying to forge? It's quite interesting at the end of his speech. He says that on this continent, this America, that we're trying to forge a new identity, and that would be an identity that acknowledges that white people and black people built America together, that black people are part of the American story and always have been, and that they need to acknowledge each other as both being fully Americans, and that their culture is not a white culture, it's not a black culture, it's an American culture that was built by both black people and white people. I think that's what he's saying. Number five, Buckley claims that the engines of concern in the United States are working. What does he mean? Was it true? Well, I think what he's trying to refute, what he takes to be Baldwin's main point, which I don't think is Baldwin's main point. Somehow that the crimes of white racism are not being addressed by white people in America. Buckley says they are. That in politics and the universities and the culture in general, that there is an attempt on the part of the white dominant class to address racism against black people. So engines of concern are working. Number six, Buckley attributes the state of black people in America to two factors. What are they? Looking over the transcript, I couldn't find this part of the speech. It's funny. I mean, I don't think there's any reason for that necessarily, but it was interesting. But what I remember is that one of the factors, and the important thing is that one of the factors, according to Buckley, is that black people haven't tried hard enough. They haven't made enough of an effort. I distinctly remember him saying that. He says he compares unfavorably the efforts of black people to the efforts of the Jewish community in America and the Irish community and the Italian community in America, people who have worked to improve their lot. And he thinks that black people haven't made enough effort. I think that that has to be said. That's the most important thing in this question. I think the other factor might just be, yes, racism. But he said it. And boy, a lot of white people think that in America. I think it's not an uncommon opinion in 1965 and probably not today, unfortunately. Number 7, what is Buckley getting at the end of his speech when he talks about confrontation? Some people just out and said, well, he's talking about a race war. And I think I have to agree with them. That is, I think he mistakenly takes the main point of Baldwin's speech to be that American civilization is irremediable, that it can't be changed or improved, and therefore has to be done away with. I don't think Baldwin said that at all. I think Buckley completely missed the point. So that he thinks, or he attributes falsely to Baldwin this idea that Baldwin wants to absolutely destroy America when, Baldwin ended his speech by talking about forging a new American identity. So I think Buckley, I don't know why but basically, it's very sinister what Buckley says at the end. That he's basically saying that white civilization or white America is ready to defend itself against the kind of black radicalism that he thinks that Baldwin represents. It's just a terrible thing to say, really. Indefensible on the part of Buckley. Number 8, was this an actual debate? I don't know. I think it was. I didn't think so at first because I thought it didn't have the form of a debate because the question was addressed closely enough by either side and there was no chance for rebuttal. But I do think now it's a debate. But what it's a debate about is maybe not exactly the proposed question, but rather maybe the larger issue of American society and the importance of racism in that society. I think it is a debate. Who won? I don't know. It's hard not to say that Baldwin won because Baldwin's speech is so much better. There's just no question about it. Buckley wasn't on Baldwin's level, right? Buckley was not that important a thinker and certainly didn't have Baldwin's vision. So it's kind of hard not to say that Baldwin won. But, who wins a debate is really oftentimes a technical matter, not so much who is the better thinker, the more profound thinker, or has the overall better point. So I don't know.